His reporting in the New York Times on CIA spying on anti-war activists during the Vietnam War era helped lead to the formation of the Church Committee, which led to major reforms of the intelligence community. In 2004, in the pages of the New Yorker magazine, Sy Hersh exposed the Abu Ghraib prisoner abuse scandal in Iraq. Well, last week, he published another bombshell report, but this time on his new Substack page. The piece was headlined, "How America Took Out the Nord Stream Pipeline." It looks at one
I know Juan Gonzalez moved out of New Brunswick and is in Chicago now. Yes, I know.
Great mysteries of the past year. Who is behind the bombing of the Nord Stream pipeline?
Amy Goodman is a fraud. She has no feet to stand on for smearing Julian Assange with neocon lies. I love you. I love you, Amelia 09. Like, literally, probably one of the most fucking important left-wing journalists in the United States of America, who has been consistent, like a lifetime of doing this, pretty much, who's been, like, attacked by attack dogs as recently as during the water defenders protesting against the DAPL pipeline. Okay, North Dakota Access Pipeline. Like, that person is actually a fraud because she fucking ate some of the goddamn propaganda on Julian Assange being, like, not the best guy. That means all of her nearly a fucking century of good leftist journalistic integrity and work is totally irrelevant now. Just tell me you're like a lifestylist psychopath who just fucking reads way too much Hammer and Sickle Twitter and move on. That's crazy, dude. That's crazy. That's insane. Bro, you cannot shit on Amy Goodman. Not on my fucking watch, okay? Get the fuck out of here. Oh my God, the U.S. Air Force played on an ad on your stream on my TV after you went on the rant? Yeah, of course. This is one of my first chatters? Wait, really? 47-month subscriber. Yeah. Stop. That latest her story is fake, bro. Yeah, totally. Did she shit on Assange? I don't even know what it is, but she probably she does get a little libby sometimes, and probably fucking covered the Assange stuff about his, like, sexual assault potentially. I think that's probably what it was. But if you're fucking shitting on Amy Goodman, and, like, saying that she's bad, there's no one. Why are you here? I'm infinitely worse than her, okay? Don't watch me then. You know what I mean? It's psychotic. And also, you probably have never seen all the other coverage that she has done on Democracy Now!, including, like, demanding that they drop the charges against Julian Assange. But you never saw that because you probably watched Jimmy Dore, some other fucking dumbass. Okay? And then some other fucking dumbass probably said Amy Goodman is a fraud and a CIA asset or some shit. Like, you know, some dumbass idiot told you that, and then you literally dropped Democracy Now! Like, it's disgusting. Have a little bit better media literacy. You oftentimes succumb to people who consider themselves to be independent, contrarian thinkers. Gray Zone Watcher, Keck W, what do you mean? Half of fucking Gray Zone has been on Democracy Now! What are you guys talking about? Except for, like, the really dumb ones. Stop. There is no better, consistent, dedicated outlet that covers the global South in the United States of America than fucking Democracy Now! If you have an issue with Amy Goodman or Democracy Now!, you are delusional. You should not call yourself a leftist at all. okay? You are not a Marxist. You are not a socialist. You're just a weird crank, okay? You're the type of motherfucker who ate the whole Tulsi Gabbard as an anti-imperialist icon, bullshit propaganda point, hook, line, and sinker. Hasan, please, you have no idea what you're talking about. I promise you, you'll see she had a bad take if you look at what she said. Dude, I don't care. I don't care. I don't care. I don't care if she had one fucking bad take. I haven't even seen it. Like, I haven't even seen what you claim she said. But I can guess, I can assume that it's most likely that she probably was like, oh yeah, Julian Assange is a sex pest or something. She like most likely mentioned that. It's insane. Dude. You come after Amy Goodman, I'm going to be honest with you. You come after Amy Goodman, you have no human that is like a guy that you like and appreciate. That's crazy. That's actually crazy. Like, it's blowing my mind, dude. What the fuck? Amy made Assange look stupid because he couldn't answer why he was associated with Roger Stone. She covered Assange favorably for years, but when she asked him about Roger Stone, the game was up and Assange looked very stupid. It was the last time he ever appeared on Democracy Now! Yeah. Which, by the way, she still very clearly is... You can think that Julian Assange is a fucking idiot. You can think that Julian Assange absolutely was one-sided in the whole, like, Clinton versus Trump saga, okay, for his understandable hatred towards Clinton and the Democratic Party, but also simultaneously advocate that he should be released, and it's fucking unimaginably insane that America and American State Department operatives openly fantasized about murdering him. Like, literally talked about that. That's not at all what happened. She blamed him for Russiagate, not Roger Stone. If she talked about Russiagate, okay, and Julian Assange, and I don't know exactly what she said, even if it's one bad take, it's fucking ridiculous. But also, even if it's more than even if it's like a conversation about Russiagate and Julian Assange, is probably the only truthful part about Russia's involvement and influence on U.S. elections. It's crazy. Dude, you can't shit on Amy Goodman. Not on my watch. Literally not while we're watching her interview Seymour Hersh.
Which were built to carry natural gas from Russia to Europe. The pipelines were severely damaged last September in a series of underwater explosions in the Baltic Sea.
National treasure that must be
In his new piece, Cy Hersh cites an unnamed source who says the sabotage was carried out by the U.S. Navy, which planted remotely triggered explosives during NATO exercises.
I gotta fucking fire up my chicken.
Hersh reports the Biden administration began planning the act of sabotage in December 2021, 2 months before Russia's invasion of Ukraine. On February 7th, 2022, President Biden held a joint news conference with German Chancellor Olaf Scholz, and Biden brought up the future of the Nord Stream pipeline.
Invades. That means tanks or troops crossing the border of Ukraine again. Then there will be no longer a Nord Stream 2. We will bring an end to it.
How will you do that exactly, since the project and control of the project is within Germany's control?
We will, I promise you we'll be able to do it.
I'll promise you we'll be able to do that. Well, Cy Hersh reports U.S. Navy divers planted remotely triggered explosives on the pipelines in June while NATO was conducting military exercises in the area. He reports the divers were all members of the Navy and not members of America's Special Operations Command, whose covert operations must be reported to Congress. Then, on September 25th, 2022, a Norwegian surveillance plane dropped a sonar buoy, which triggered the C4 explosives that had been placed on the pipeline. Soon after the explosion, the United States strongly suggested Russia was behind blowing up its own pipeline. This is National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan responding to a question at a White House press briefing.
In his speech this morning, the president...
Just a real whodunit, you know what I mean? A real, who could have done something like this? I mean, who... I don't know. That's crazy. What the fuck? Wow. I mean, what? No. It must have been Russia, dude. Come on, man. And now look. One of the things that people will do, okay, whenever we talk about like Seymour Hersh or Noam Chomsky or anyone that does not fall in line with State Department propaganda where it matters the most, they will take bad takes that they have or takes that are like not agreeable, and they will constantly batter you in the fucking head with it. Okay? Immediately. I already see it. Look. Prospect Magazine. Whatever happened to Seymour Hersh? The strange story of how a legendary investigative journalist came to echo Assad's propaganda. They're doing it already. They do it with me. And I'm not in any way as meaningful as like a reporter or a journalist at all. Watch. Immediately, they're like, oh, Hasan is a Russia defender. He loves Russia. He loves sucking Vladimir Putin's cock, dude. It's like people do it for free, which is mind-boggling. You are not being paid by the State Department. Why are you doing propaganda for them? They always do this. Character assassination for people that do not fucking do, people who fucking write things or do investigative reporting or have genuine commentary, okay, against the mainstream narrative, against State Department propaganda, regularly get vilified, which is, by the way, isn't the narrative that you hate America? Yeah, that, but like not in a way where it is valid, because there are valid reasons to hate America, but in a way that is somehow a third thing, like an invalid way to hate America. They literally will never actually, routinely talk about the very real reasons to be mad at America, even as an American who loves America, but instead, they will point to like, oh, he's just fucking, remember when he was wrong 2 years ago when he said it is unimaginably stupid for Vladimir Putin to invade Ukraine, and therefore I'm not going to make that assertion. I'm not going to run with that because no one in Ukraine, no one in Russia, no one in the fucking Russian military thought that Vladimir Putin was stupid enough to fucking invade Ukraine. Remember when that happened? 1 year ago? Not 2 years ago, sorry. That's the reason why they fucking constantly rush to that. Why are you centering the conversation around yourself? Because I want people to understand. Okay? I want people to understand how Flack works. Okay? And there is no better way to get Twitch-brained weirdos to understand how Flack works and understand how fucking people vilify you if you are, vilify you aggressively, okay? If you are not towing the State Department propaganda lines, because we're talking about Seymour Hersh. I'm making it more relatable. These motherfuckers don't know who Seymour Hersh is. They don't even know who fucking Noam Chomsky is, okay? But they know who I am, and they've been in here for an entire goddamn year at the very least, so they know what has happened throughout that process. That's why you still have so many people who go, what the fuck? I don't get it. Like, why do people constantly bring that shit up? It be your own chatters that love to LARP as hate watchers? Exactly. That's the reason why I brought it back to myself and centered it around myself. The wildest part about this is when fucking internet commentators do this. Okay? You are not working for the media. You are not contracted by Lockheed Martin. Why the fuck are you so clout hungry that you are going to also do the bottom feeder bullshit? You're doing it for free. You're not on the payroll.
Called the Nord Stream pipeline attacks, quote, a deliberate act of sabotage. And he said now the Russians are pumping out misinformation and lies about it. Should we take that to mean that the U.S. now believes that Russia was likely responsible for this act of sabotage?
Well, first, Russia has done what it frequently does when it is responsible for something, which is make accusations that it was really someone else who did it.
Maybe people just don't like imperialism. What are you talking about? That's a crazy take.
We've seen this repeatedly.
Of course, people don't like imperialism.
But the president was also
But people do like American imperialism. That's the point.
Clear today that there is more work to do on the investigation before the United States government is prepared to make an attribution in this case.
In the following months, there have been few public disclosures about the pipeline explosion. In December, the New York Times reported Russia had begun expensive repairs on the pipelines, a move which has raised questions about Western claims that Russia had bombed its own pipelines. Meanwhile, some Biden officials have publicly praised the fact that the pipeline was blown up. This is Undersecretary of State for Political Affairs Victoria Nuland speaking during a recent Senate Foreign Relations Committee hearing.
I am, and I think the administration is very gratified to know that Nord Stream 2 is now, as you like to say, a hunk of metal at the bottom of the sea.
We're joined now by Pulitzer Prize-winning journalist Seymour Hersh to talk more about his new piece, How America Took Out the Nord Stream Pipeline. While the White House has described Hersh's reporting as, quote, complete fiction, calls are growing for an independent probe into the explosion. Cy Hersh, welcome back to Democracy Now! If you can flesh out what it is you found in your report and what first tipped you off, albeit there were a lot of public comments, including the Polish government right after the bombing saying, thank you, America. Lay it out for us, Cy.
Well, first of all, I think the reporting really can be described as a friend of mine did. What I did was really deconstruct the obvious. I mean, you have to hear what the president said. But of course, there were secret plans that I'm writing about, and they include there was a committee set up. Jake Sullivan was directly involved. He was the national security advisor, still is. They set up a team to look at options about how to put pressure on the Russian government to back off. I'm getting a bounce in my ears, so this is comical. Can you hear me?
We hear you perfectly. We don't hear the bounce, Cy.
Oh, okay, that's great. I hear it, though. Anyway, and so there was I'm just writing about inside baseball stuff. It's the normal things you do. They set up a...
I mean, it sounds like Hassan's take. It was obvious. It is. It is obvious. It was so, I mean, it's insane. Like, I felt like people were going crazy, but I haven't stopped feeling that way since Russia did do a crazy thing. Okay? But people literally do fucking constantly bring that up. And they say, well, Vladimir Putin is crazy. He was crazy enough to invade Ukraine. So maybe he's crazy enough to blow up his own pipeline. I'm like, come on, bro. That's insane. Like, you got motherfuckers openly saying, Russia, if you invade Ukraine, we're going to blow up the pipeline. And it doesn't matter. It's like, nah, Russia did it to themselves. And people believed it.
To think of options. Russia was clearly going to go. The threat the president had yet to make had not been made, and this is December before New Year's Day of the year before, 2021. And the question inside the committee, and it included the usual CIA, NSA, Treasury Department, State Department, you name it, and they met in a secret office building in the across the street from the White House, the executive office building. The option was, do you want us to do something kinetic or something not kinetic? In other words, not kinetic would be more sanctions, or something kinetic would be, taking out the pipeline, as had been thought about. And an answer came pretty quickly. I would guess Victoria Nuland's statement that you mentioned came actually before the president's. It came in late January of last year. And that statement came, at that time, I think the committee involved, a lot of sophisticated people in the intelligence and operation community, concluded you could do it. And the White House was told it was possible. I think that led to the comments, which really, of course, made the people on the inside go half crazy because it was supposed to be completely covert. But at that place, as I wrote, it was simply described as a classified operation. None of the rules of reporting to Congress were involved. And so they began their planning. They went to Norway, which is a great ally of ours. Norway was one of the original signers of the 1949 NATO treaty. I think 19 nations were involved then. And Norway is a great ally. We have spent, I write about this in some detail in the article, hundreds of millions, probably more, closer to $1 billion or more, upgrading facilities. Norway has a 1,400-mile border along the Atlantic coast that goes from Oslo and in Europe.
Bro, y'all are being a little fucking ridiculous. Saying he's boring. This man has done, like, he uncovered the My Lai massacre, dude. What are you, like, that's insane, bro. Like, just, know your place a little bit, TikTok brain fucking weirdos. Abu Ghraib too. Yeah, like, this guy is, oh, God, it's so sad, bro. Yes, he's a journalist. I'm the one who's supposed to make it interesting. Yes, my My Lai, Watergate. I'm the one who's supposed to make it interesting, but I can't right now because I'm eating. Okay, so that's the problem.
All the way up north it runs into the Russian border in above the Arctic Circle. So we put a lot of facilities up north there. Synthetic aperture radar, which costs a fortune to monitor the Russian nuclear sites around, and also their military activities around there, up in the other side of the peninsula, in the Kola Peninsula. So they're just our guys, and they're also great at doing underwater stuff. And so that's what happened. We did a plan with them. We had to clear it with Sweden and Denmark. I'll leave it to them to decide whether that they were accepted the explanation we were doing exercises in the Baltic Sea for the hell of it. But so far, I haven't seen much from either of them. It's a tiresome game to me. And so what happens is when I do my story on Substack, I wouldn't even think, I'm embarrassed to say it after all those wonderful years I had at the New York Times, I wouldn't even think of taking a story like this to the New York Times. They've decided that the Ukraine war is going to be won by Ukraine, and that's what its readers get, and so be it. That's their call. So I just did my reporting, and the miners came from a very facility in a little small town in Florida, and the mining community in the Navy is very secret, and they just do their business. They don't talk. That was perfect people to get, and they practiced it. And as you said, there was a major exercise every summer by the Sixth Fleet, which American Sixth Fleet out of Italy, which also has the operational rights in the Baltic Sea. Baltic Sea is a huge place. The pipelines we're talking about.
Sounds like a Russian asset. He sounds biased. Who have been trained into saying that every single time someone brings things up. You have been trained into saying that. Everyone is biased. It's wild that, like, how mainstream media is so fucking powerful, dude. It's so fucking powerful. Like, anytime something is like even tangibly coming across like anti-Ukraine, people go, "Oh, dude, it's over. This guy is doing Russian propaganda." He's not even anti-Ukraine, for the record. If anything, he's more pro-Ukraine than the New York Times is, because he said it was America that is responsible for this. The New York Times turned around and said, nope, never mind. It's actually Ukraine that's responsible for this. So suck my dick. He's just pro-truth. I think Chapo said he's a bit of a CIA drip source, but the local group I am a part of hasn't mentioned anything on that and did our last meeting on this article. Are those critiques worth keeping in mind, or do I just have wrong-headed stuff on this? I don't know if I don't know if he is a drip source for CIA. I don't know enough. Oh no, is Hassan running defense for the Kremlin again? Fuck yeah, dude. I love Vladimir Putin and the invasion of Ukraine. No, I don't give a fuck, okay? I don't care. Like, I think it's unjustifiable, cruel, inhumane to have invaded Ukraine, okay? It's so stupid. The only thing I run defense for is the top of the hour ad break. Holy fuck. Which comes at the top of the hour every hour when there's a 3-minute ad break. If you no longer want to see those ads, that draconian take is uniquely American at all. Oh no, Hassan is running defense for the Kremlin again. Hassan aiding Russia might mess up China's soft power strategy though. Oh, this guy only comes in whenever I talk about Ukraine to say, I am aiding Russia. Oh my God, what a fucking brain-broken NPC. Defend capitalism now? Yes, I do. I love capitalism. The fact that every minor criticism of Ukraine, you have to lead with a 5-minute talk about how you don't talk about how you don't support the Ukrainian invasion. Yes, I have to do that. Because, Hassan is just an appeasement Andy. No, I'm an O'Warman Andy, okay? Yeah, no, you're an O'Warman Andy in a nuclear state. I love people who fucking have this like ahistoric, idiotic fucking analysis and go, appeasement. What you're doing is appeasement, just like with Nazi Germany. Hey, dumbass. Nazi Germany didn't have fucking nukes, okay? But Russia does. Shut the fuck up. How many times have we talked about this, dude? It is so fucking stupid. War pig libs chirping. I know. I hate it. I hate it so much. It's just so hard. It's part of the reason why I don't fucking talk about this shit at all anymore. Because, like, liberals make it unbearable and impossible to cover this story without, like, you know, routinely getting me to fucking respond 1,000,000 times over to the same shit that they consider to be controversies because their fucking YouTube essays, favorite commentator told them the exact same shit that the MSNBC is telling them. So now they have, like, the tools to fight back against it. Anyway, Big Boy Gamer Man and Rob on that. Thank you for the 5 get the subs, allowing 10 people to no longer see the ads at the top of the fucking hour. So frustrating. It's like I have to repeat the same lines over and over and over and over again. War is not entertainment. People are dying. It is disgusting. It's gross. It's inhumane. And every day that this fucking war continues is another day that the American military-industrial complex is actually making money. How can they be bleeding heart lives for Ukraine, but then think Ukraine blew up a pipeline harming EU citizens, which make them look fucking crazy? That's so harmful to Ukraine. Bro, they did this with the fucking the bombing of like that Polish grain silo too. There have every step of the way NATO perverts, okay? Every step of the way, NATO perverts have fucking unironically said wrong things over and over again and tried to fucking ramp up the war drums, bang on the war drums over and over again. They never have to learn because all of those fucking NATO pervert sentiment is shared by mainstream media and they never go back to it and go, oopsie, we were wrong. Maybe we should be a little bit more careful with our coverage. I, on the other hand, have said that when I was wrong. Okay? When I said that it's fucking insanely idiotic for Russia to invade Ukraine, this is a country of 44 million people whose like entire nationalist movement is built off of like anti-Russian resentment. That would be psychotic to fucking invade, especially when you're not even America. You're not the American superpower. Okay? And even America would not be able to do something like that. they still fucking hyper focus on when I said Russia will not invade Ukraine.
Nord Stream 1, which came alive in 2011, and Nord Stream 2 was actually done, but the Germans that are ready to pump has 750 miles. And
yeah, I should have just become one of those, like, the Ukrainian war is fake Andes. I know. That's what I should have done instead. I should have fucking pivoted to, like, being a MAGA communist or whatever.
Go straight from Russia, which is loaded with all kinds of gas. They're in Siberia. They have enormous reserves, directly into Germany. And I can tell you, Nord Stream 1 was a godsend for the German economy and Western Europe. They produced so much gas at such low prices that the German government was actually able to resell some of the gas the Russians were providing at a profit without Russia objecting. And so the German economy is huge. It's booming. You know, the cars we know about, Germany has the largest chemical company in the world, BASF, and everybody's right now. It's hell to pay. It's gotten very cold there. There's a lot of anger, and anyway, the purpose.
Hirsch, so I wanted to ask you in terms of the lack of it always seemed to me when the claims were that potentially Russia had sabotaged its own pipeline, that it was ludicrous to think that that would be so, that they would invest so much money.
I'll eat the L today. I figured USA, Ukraine on Russia. I figured USA/Ukraine or Russia could have done the pipeline, but I believe I was a bit too ready to believe Russia would have done it when there was really no advantage in it for them, and that was easily observable. Thank you.
In pipelines and then bomb them themselves. But I'm interested in the lack of press attention since the sabotage occurred, and also the lack of congressional attention. I think back to the CIA's mind.
We celebrate that kind of take back here. We consider that to be growth. We don't consider that to be backtracking because we're not fucking brain broken debate perverts. Okay? That is something that I will always fucking value, okay? People that go, you know what? Honestly, I was wrong on this, and I recognize that now. Whereas my interlocutors, my fucking psychopathic haters, do not see it that way. When you make a concession, or when you turn around and accept that you were wrong on something and apologize, not only do they bully you and bash you in the head with the fucking prior thing that you had said before the recognition, and then they make fun of you for even recognizing it. So there is no winning in the eyes of those psychopathic people. They just go harder. One of the greatest examples of this was when Doodoo Daff came out and apologized for, like, writing no purpose flower in her own chat when they were going through anti-white slurs. What happened when she did that? She never had to apologize for it to begin with. But when she did that, those fucking pathetic, absolute vermin turned around and only reignited that fucking conversation one more time and shit on her. I always tell you, when someone is apologetic, when someone genuinely feels like they've turned a new leaf, when someone feels like, they got new information and recognize that they were wrong originally, you should respect that. You should be understanding and welcoming to that. They can't imagine conceding because they're sophists and don't care about the truth, just bringing people over, which honestly is a concept that only applies to teens and young adults.
Of the Managua harbors back in the early 1980s under the Reagan administration, when the conservative Republican head of the Senate Intelligence Committee Barry Goldwater objected and raised concerns that this was a covert operation where Congress was not notified. And then, of course, Congress cut off aid to the Contras. As a result, there was an International Court of Justice ruling against the United States. But in this case, this kind of sabotage, the media seems not to be at all interested in finding out what happened here, as you have, and Congress, there's no one in Congress that's been raising questions.
You listened to the newscast that we just heard as the show opened. One horrible event after another. I think the world's taken a very bizarre turn. I also, it doesn't matter what I think. There's no question there's been a polarization of the press since Trump got in. We're now on two sides, right, left, Democrat, Republican, however you describe it. If you watch Fox News, you don't watch MSNBC, et cetera, et cetera. And if you read the New York Times, you're not going to get what the right winger, the conservatives have been after the New York Times and Washington Post for their quote unquote liberal views. So we've got a polarization going, and at this time we've got a Democratic president that has done some good stuff domestically, but I can tell you I'm not understanding the total commitment to Ukraine, and I'm not understanding what I read because obviously I have access to a lot of people who see things. I've been doing this, Amy, and I've been doing this, writing about COVID activities for, am I that old? 300 years. Anyway, the bottom line is the stories I've been getting.
You were super annoying to people who were concerned about a potential invasion. Your entire resentment towards my coverage unironically revolves around how I made you feel. Something I have already apologized for 1 year ago. Think about how narcissistic that is. A good way to frame this is, what would be different if Hasan had correctly predicted the invasion? The answer is literally nothing, lol. Yeah. This is also part of the reason why a lot of people try to find ways. Like they'll be like, what if there were Ukrainian chatters who listened to you and didn't leave their homes? They'll try to find a way. And it's like, you think I am the only person who said Russia won't invade Ukraine? Well, maybe you should listen to some Ukrainian news sources from before the invasion and get a better understanding that they also were saying it's not going to happen. And I'm pretty sure people were listening to them a lot more than they were listening to my fucking Twitch channel.
About the war, particularly beginning in fall, and that's what gets interesting, have been pretty dire. The Russians, I think the end is just a question of time. Right now, it's a question of how many more people Zelensky wants to kill of his own people. It's going to be over. What happened is the plan was to put the bomb, and I can't answer your philosophical question about why Congress isn't doing it.
There are legit Twitch streamers who said they didn't expect it, like Zepla, who lived in Ukraine. Of course they didn't expect it.
Anymore.
Because they were all watching me, obviously.
This is pretty much polarized just as much. And there's also an enormous continuing hatred of all things Putin in this country, which is foreign policy disagreements are one thing, but it's very personal here. And that's not useful. But anyway, the other, I don't think there's any chance that Putin wants to take over Europe. I don't think he wants to have Ukraine tamed, but he's not interested in doing anything more. But I may be in a minority about that. Anyway, what happens is there was an exercise in June.
Let's say Putin wants to take over Europe. With what army, motherfucker? What's going to happen? How? Bro, he can't even take over Ukraine. How's he going to take over NATO countries, bro? What's he going to do? Fuck you mean, dude? Wrong. Latvia would be next if they could. Well, yeah, if they could. Bro, I'm not even kidding. I don't even think Putin could fucking take over Moldova. Okay? What are these lib-ass takes? Moldovan Mama Liga will hold back the Russians on horseback? No, on cowback. Holy fuck, you are so wrong. Moldova has no military at all. How dare you? How dare you disrespect the cowback soldiers of Moldova? That is so fucked up. Now you've been shit on by the libs. Tie for the leftist purists to come out of the woodwork now? Yeah, I can't wait.
And it was supposed to. The bombs were put in there under the cover of a NATO exercise. There were a lot of different countries running around with divers and blowing up things. It was an exercise to go find and chase mines. There never had been one before. It actually was whoever in the CIA or the other agencies that thought this up should get a bow because it was pretty ingenious. So in that exercise, the divers went down, did what they were trained to do. They're very good. C4. A couple hundred, whatever.
Putin already controls Translandia and Moldova. What are you talking about? Okay. I said what I said, bitch. You heard me. Did I stutter?
The way it is.
You mean Transnistria, by the way? Fucking Translandia. Motherfucker said, the fuck is Translandia? Moldova moved to America. I know. Moldova and Mama Liga left Moldova literally unguarded. Which is kind of fucked up when you think about it. Ace41, thank you for the 5, get the subs. He fled? Yeah, I mean, to be fair, like, you know, I want him to be safe. He's a long-term community member, you know, a long-time chatter. So it's okay for him to escape. But also at the same time, like,
blow up most cities, most of the buildings in Washington, and some in New York. Anyway, they did their job, but the president at the last minute hesitated because he was afraid blowing it up right after the exercise would put the finger at us, and then he wanted permission to do it anytime, and that caused an enormous trouble in the team. The team was, you know. People are sophisticated in the intelligence services. I know we have cliches about them. We see the movies about them. And the bottom line is this made sense of them blowing up a pipeline, blowing up a pipeline it's actually owned by a division of Gazprom owns 51%. That's all the Russian oligarchs. And 49% of the Nord Stream 1 are owned by 4 business groups in the Western Europe who farm out the oil anyway. They saw the threat as being valid. And if he wanted to do it during an exercise, well, okay. But in September, late September, they got the word, you know, they fixed it so he could. But then they thought it was, I don't know what they thought, but I don't think they thought in late September he would blow up the main pipeline, Nord Stream 2, which is a new one that had been just built. And it had been sanctioned. It had gas in it. That's why so much leaks. 750 miles of methane gas were sitting in it. But it had been sanctioned by the German government. And so when he did that, here's what Biden did. And this is what I think the ultimate point of the story and why so many people, even the intelligence community, are very troubled by it. What he did is he said, I'm in a big war with Ukraine. It's not looking good. I want to be sure I get German and West European support. And I know winter's coming. And if it's going to be bad, I don't want the Germans to say we got to check out because we're getting massacred. We'll be massacred with no cheap fuel, and our economy will go bonkers. We're going to check out and we're going to open up the gas line, which they could do. So he took away that option, and what that has done, as you know, America has been talking about ever since the first pipeline, Nord Stream 1, came online in 2011.
Okay. It's a copy pasta from this community. Bro, that's a copy pasta from when you first moved in. Yeah. No, someone said this 2 years ago and you responded to them. Yeah. Yeah. And I was like, oh, you think it's like the swastika? Well, think about all the fucking people who were carrying the swastika that got murdered by people flying that flag.
and there were years before it was being built. This goes back to the Bush-Cheney years, and as you know, I did a lot of reporting for the New Yorker on those people, on that particular gaggle. Anyway, and the threat of gas, the threat of cheap energy for Europe, would always seen as a threat to make Europe be more palatable or more willing to trade with Russia. We always wanted to isolate Russia. This has been a theme of the last decades.
Cy, but can I ask you also that there are several people, obviously you've gotten criticism at times for many of your exposés, but there are some people who are saying that this particular expose does not have a whole lot of documentation, that it essentially relies on one source one internal source, anonymous source of yours. How do you respond to those criticisms that this is much less documented than previous exposés of yours?
I'll get to that, but let me finish my thought because it's a very important thought.
This is true, by the way. He's right. I mean, this criticism is correct. Yo, soy boy, stop pretending to be Asian. What? Because I'm eating fucking teriyaki chicken with chopsticks? That's why I'm Asian? Also, I am Asian, by the way. Not like East Asian, but I am literally Asian. I'm Turkish, you fucking idiot. Where do you think Turkey is? Okay, Ariana Grande. Americans are so fucking dumb. They think like when someone says Asian, they think it's just like East Asian. You know what I mean? I mean, I'm white, but I am from the Asian continent. Not the Anatolian Peninsula, where his family is from on one side. The Middle East of what? Dumbass chatters. You're Middle Eastern law. Turkey, given its strong and long history of being the empire, is very diverse and difficult to explain, especially from like the same ethnocentric racial dynamics that you could try and explain other groups of people with. That's why there's Turkish people as dark as my uncle, and then Turkish people as white as myself, or even like blonde, blue-eyed Turkish people. I guess people in Brazil are American, like what? I mean, yeah, technically, that is true. Yeah, they are. Well, like, what do you think Latin America is, for example? When you talk about Latin Americans, do you not, like, what do you think? Did you just forget that that's a designation? Like, did you really think that was a fucking own? Like, you thought, bro, Chatter's so Ameribrain, he thought America means U.S. Like, no one says like Latin American, South American. That's crazy, dog. Literally anybody outside of the U.S. from the Americas gets really annoyed at USians calling themselves American. Yeah, that's another funny part about it, but Cy Hirsch is full of shit. Ukraine did the bombing. Yeah, Ukraine did the bombing. Doesn't actually mean that Cy Hirsch is full of shit, for the record. I need you to understand that, because like Ukraine doesn't do anything without America's at least like go ahead, knowledge, lack of interest in stopping their actions, operations. So, you know,
the fear was Europe would pass away, walk away from the war. Now what he's done, and you have to lift it up a little bit. There you go. There. Now what he's done is he's told Europe, you're second rate. And I think the consequences of this for the Europeans are going to be horrific. This has cut into the notion that they can depend totally on America, even in a crisis. And I think it's going to undercut NATO, which I always found to be supremely useless. But certainly the European countries are going to be, I know people that are paying 5 times as much now for electricity. People are paying 3 or 4 times more for gas. There's not enough of it. It's very expensive. It's colder now than it was in the fall. They had a light fall because of climate change, if you want to believe it or not. And anyway, I think the consequences politically for us are enormous. I think the reason that Biden and his people in the White House have denied the story and continue to deny it, and get accepted by some of the press, my old newspaper, the New York Times. I don't know why they're not doing more reporting on this instead of relying on a denial and walking away from the story. Ditto for the Washington Post. I think the consequence.
Bro, this is actually a really interesting point that Chapo did make. I don't think they called him a CIA stooge, but Chapo did make this point, Will Menaker specifically, who said, if there was proof, conclusive proof, that Russia actually did the bombing, do you really think American news sources like the New York Times would not be endlessly reporting it rather than just like kind of letting this whole thing go? They were like, oopsie, it blew up. It's probably Russia. Let's move on. Do you really think that if there was conclusive evidence, anything, and by the way, the intelligence community is very good at finding evidence. Let's be fucking real. They're also very good at hiding evidence, usually. But you think they fucking have, if they had any evidence that it was definitely Russia, you think they would just not fucking talk about it? And don't forget fabricating evidence too. Yeah, they literally lie and shit, you know?
Is politically for us in the long run, looking at even potential some countries walking out of NATO. If that's what he thinks, that our being cold is less important than him keeping a war going that he's not going to win, it strikes me. As for the source question, I've been doing this so long, I'm not bothered by the fact that the government attacks me and that my old newspaper, the New York Times, hasn't written a word about it. I find it sort of, that's where we are. That's why people like me are in Substack. It's a self-publishing thing. I don't have to worry about censorship or second thoughts. But I don't talk about sources. I just, I'm lucky. I've had for 20 or 30 years people inside.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah. I like this. Maybe a shark just bumped against it. You're right. I like that. I mean, it's better. It's better than like what America's come up with. America's original inclination was, oh, it's probably Russia. Or not even probably. They were like, it's definitely Russia. Russia did it to itself. Russia, why are you hitting yourself? So maybe Shark Bumpe against it is literally just like a better idea.
Side who not only are faithful to what they're doing, but also are not afraid to be critical of it. And so that's the kind of source that reporters dream about. And I've had people like that for forever, and I still do. And so there's been a lot of criticism. One of the things I will get to your point about criticism. One of the criticisms of the open source people, OSINT, it's a very big part of the world now. There are people that monitor air traffic and boat traffic and all that. And there's some 2 or 3 different groups have produced statements saying that none of the things they see tracks with my story. And I would say about that, if you're in the
Defend yourself. Defend your use of a single anonymous source. Oh, I've been doing this a long time. People are trying to censor me, so just trust me in my single anonymous source. What the fuck? I mean, if I think there's one person who you could like, who could technically say that, it is him, because time and time again he has gone against the overwhelming narrative and has been right. But I do agree that like having one anonymous source, which is fine, you can have an anonymous source, but not even enough on background. Like having only one source does kind of render the article a little, it turned it into a bit of a wash. So, but ultimately it doesn't matter because like he does have credibility. I mean, it's literally the same thing as what the New York Times did in the article. Brother, that's part of the reason why I shit on the New York Times though. And worst of all, New York Times will just turn around and fucking say, oh yeah, it's just the anonymous sources in the State Department. Or just, they won't even be anonymous. They'll just literally be like, yeah, it was the State Department person. So, oh, I'm agreeing with you against that chatter. Oh, okay. The sources don't really matter here, though. Just look at who benefits. Yeah, exactly. Which is why I never even covered the Seymour Hersh article because, like, I was like, who cares? I personally don't even care because, like, here's a non-anonymous source. His name is Joseph Robinette Biden and Victoria Nuland, too. So, like, what the fuck do you need? It's like motherfuckers are like, yeah, we're gonna stop the Nord Stream pipeline while also simultaneously building facilities for U.S. natural gas to come into Germany, literally before they even blow up the pipeline. Who gets the benefit from it? Who gets the benefit from this the most? American fossil fuel producers. America can continue to say, like, Russia is crazy or whatever the fuck. Like, who cares? You know, you already have, like, a very obvious party that wins a lot in this regard and a party that loses.
The intelligence community, you've been running covert ops for years, and you're in Norway. We're working very closely with the Norwegians on this, who, by the way, have increased their production of oil to Europe by double it. It was, I don't know the exact numbers, but it's gone up at least double, maybe even more than that, 2.5 times as much now without the pipeline. But certainly, the first thing you look at is how to take care of open source people, make them think what happened isn't happening. I mean, that's so obvious to me, but not to them. And so.
Sai, I wanted to go to what Ned Price said at the State Department. Sam Husseini of the Institute for Public Accuracy questioned the State Department spokesperson about your reporting last week.
I'm sure you're aware of the new report from Seymour Hersh, how America took out the Nord Stream pipeline and the White House's denial of any involvement. Given the longstanding U.S. opposition to the pipeline, Secretary Blinken's calling its demise a tremendous opportunity, and Under Secretary of State Nuland's saying that the U.S. officials were pleased with the destruction of the pipeline, and especially the Sweden's secretive investigation. Do you think the U.S. government's denial of involvement is credible?
I absolutely do, and I repeat it here. Anything else?
Let me follow up on that, if I might. Have you or anybody else at the State Department been in communication with German, Norwegian ambassadors or other allies or officials on this matter?
On the matter of Nord Stream 2?
On the matter of the latest allegations, which give a fairly, I mean, it's one anonymous source, but it is a fairly detailed.
It would not be. It would not be typical for us to engage allies and partners on something that is utter and complete nonsense and that should be rejected out of hand by anyone who is looking at it through an objective lens. Yes, go ahead.
One more aspect on this. One of the allegations that Hersh makes is that it was taken off the CIA in order to prevent involvement, oversight as a covert operation. Did you read the piece?
I'm familiar with it.
One of his allegations is that it was taken off the CIA.
Look, rather than let this propaganda be aired in...
Oh, yeah. Hit him with the propaganda, dude. I'm not gonna let this Kremlin propaganda continue, Sweaty. Not on my watch, bro. Your job is literally propaganda. Like, that's crazy. That's crazy, bro. Your job is to literally do propaganda at the behest of the fucking State Department. What are you doing? But again, they can play. These people can basically play this game with training wheels on and just immediately drop the fucking number like this. Like, it'd be like, it's Kremlin propaganda, Sweetie. Like they're a fucking middle-aged wine mom in Minnesota with a Ukrainian flag in their fucking bio whose brain has been rotten by watching too much MSNBC. Like, are you fucking kidding me? You're a professional propagandist. Do a better job, you fucking idiot. But it doesn't matter because so much of the media is on board that, like, you can get away with saying this because plenty of people will go, yeah, that's right. That is Kremlin propaganda, actually. That's mind-boggling to me. That, like, the American government's top PR guy is literally saying, that's Kremlin propaganda, Sweaty. That's crazy. You're not a Ukrainian flag bio lib, dude. You can't be fucking just using that.
In the briefing room. But let me just say, it is a fundamental misunderstanding of oversight in our U.S. Congress. Beyond getting his facts entirely wrong, as he has before in very high-profile ways, it is a fundamental misunderstanding to suggest that our intelligence community is not subject to oversight. Anyone who writes that, who writes anything like that...
Russia blaming the U.S. calls for a UN probe of Nord Stream. Following Seymour Hersh's bombshell on the U.S. destruction of the Nord Stream pipeline, Russia has called for an independent UN commission to investigate the allegations. The United States opposes such an investigation. What does Washington have to hide? Not only is that, but also we are now living in the today world. This is no longer February 22nd. This is now March 7th. And on March 7th, the United States already has conceded that it wasn't Russia, and it's probably Ukraine-backed groups that sabotage the pipelines. And that's the main point. So talking about Seymour Hersh left and right, back and forth, whether he has enough sources, whether he doesn't have enough sources, none of that fucking matters because the United States State Department sucked the cock that they didn't want to suck. And they had to go out and come up with a different strat. And they had a lot of time to do that. And yet, because they have gotten so comfortable with how much work the mainstream media does in brainwashing dumbasses that even get all of their news from independent sources like YouTubers and people like myself that come in here and defend the State Department without getting paid by them, that they don't have to say anything. They just be like, yeah, someone did it, not us. And then that's it. That's it. And we move on. Everyone forgets about the fact that, like, everyone forgets about how we got here. Everyone forgets that, like, people turned around and said it was definitely Russia. Do you understand? It's crazy. Damn, why'd you get fucking owned? Someone in the shark fart go boom. Exactly. BS, thank you for the 5, get the subs. Ukraine and its allies have been seen by some officials as having the most logical potential to motive. Wait, what? Ukraine and its allies have been seen by some officials as having the most logical potential motive to attack the pipelines. That's not what the New York Times was writing literally a week ago. Wait, since when? They didn't used to say that. They used to say America had the... sorry, I can't even say it correctly. They used to say Russia had the most to gain. So when did they decide that it was actually maybe not Russia that has the most to gain. They have opposed the project for years, calling it a national security threat because it would allow Russia to sell more gas easily to Europe. First of all, you said that. America said that. Suck my dick, New York Times. What the fuck? Bro, they are throwing Ukraine under the bus. They're pulling a Kurdish militia move on an entire nation state right now, which is crazy. You can get away with it when you do it to a fucking Kurdish militias, which, 35 million Kurds live in a state of disarray, no nation state for them, right? But still, they're mostly like militias, some of them in fight amongst one another. But you can't just like fucking do that to an entire country that you've glazed up and propped up for the past year, non-fucking stop. God, America are such fake friends, bro. Yeah, sorry, Germany. It must have been Ukraine that did that. Or not even Ukraine, but like Ukrainian people that are unrelated to the Ukrainian state. How do they get the training and the munitions to be able to blow up a motherfucking pipeline? I don't know. You need to get laid, bro. Every euphemism is mad horny today. Yeah. One thing I don't understand about people, especially on the left's argument, is that Ukraine belongs to the Russian sphere of influence. What gives a country a right to do a sphere of influence? Should we leave Palestine to rot because it's under Israel's sphere of influence and they have nuclear weapons? I don't make that argument. I don't care. Like, I don't make that argument. I think that no country should be under the sphere of influence by other larger nations. I don't even know who's making this argument. Wild how this isn't an international breaking news story. People will talk about it. Can we watch this ridiculous take where Tate vid where he talks about Megan Fox fucking Megan Fox with a dick? Brother, what do you mean? Why are you sending me a Reddit link when you could have just sent me my tweet, which currently is sitting at 136,000 likes at this point, where I said, you are not mentally prepared for Andrew Tate to make a kind of pro-trans argument using the most misogynistic and transphobic statements possible as the chaser that he is. Andrew Tate is a chaser, which is so incredibly on brand for so many in the conservative movement. Aiden Ross, you seeing this? And he ain't even wrong, technically. From your tweet to H3H2 Reddit and back around to the stream, Lamau. Yeah. Oh. You've literally made this argument using Buck Angel. Yes, I've kind of made a similar argument, even though passing is not like the most important thing, obviously, for someone's identity to be of value. It's not. I just use it as a gender is a performance. I just use it as an argument for stating that gender is a performance. Ultimately, it's an expression and it's socially learned. We're going to talk about this in a second, though. Let me just wrap this shit up. Fuck. Okay. Russia called Tuesday for a special United Nations commission to investigate the explosion that blew up the Nord Stream undersea natural gas pipelines in September. The United States said the accusation was completely false, and it accused Russia of trying to distract attention from the criticism around the first anniversary of its unprovoked February 24th invasion of Ukraine and ongoing attacks on Ukrainian civilian infrastructure. The exchanges took place on the UN Security Council, which has become the world's only public forum from a direct and often antagonistic contacts between Washington and Moscow. China offered full support for Russia's call for a special UN inquiry. HasanAbi Piker also offers full support for Russia's call for a special UN inquiry. I think that's, if we want the truth, that's a valid thing to express, right? A simple statement of utterly false and complete fiction is obviously not enough to answer many questions and concerns raised around the world, said China's UN ambassador Zhang Jun, referring to the U.S. dismissal of the Nord Stream sabotage charge. The request for an independent investigation is entirely legitimate and reasonable. These investigations have not yet been concluded, the letter said, and at this point it is not possible to say when they will be concluded. But Russia's UN ambassador Vasily Nebenzia, who called the emergency meeting, said the perpetrator was now known thanks to an investigating journalist who had determined not only the United States did it, but how they did it with the involvement of their NATO ally, Norway. 2 weeks ago, journalist Seymour Hersh published a lengthy article on Substack. 3 months later, Hersh wrote, President Biden gave the order to blow them up in response to Russia's invasion of Ukraine. Hersh won a Pulitzer Prize in the 1970s for uncovering the My Lai massacre, all this other stuff. The story, categorically denied by the Biden administration, was quickly picked up and spread by Russian media. Presentation in support of Russia's calls for a UN investigation were offered during the meeting by economist and Columbia University professor Jeffrey Sachs and retired CIA officer and political activist Raymond McGovern. Sachs, who has faulted NATO enlargement as a cause of the war and called for it to be resolved by U.S.-Russia negotiations, said that the White House had labeled Hersh's allegations completely and utterly false, but did not offer any information contradicting it or even an alternative explanation. Well, they have one now. Guys, they have one now. It's Ukrainian allies might have did it. I mean, McGovern, a former senior CIA analyst who works on arms control during the Cold War, said, I associate myself completely with Sachs. He also noted that NATO had expanded its membership in Eastern Europe despite the promise not to do so. Nebenzia said that countries investigating Nord Stream sabotage have not kept Russia informed of their inquiries, that they had rebuffed Moscow's offers to participate. You know what's funny? I think the funniest counter to this would be, well, Russia did it to themselves by invading Ukraine, which prompted Ukraine and Ukrainian allies, including CIA, covert operations, to blow up the pipelines because they invaded Ukraine. That is going to be the final, the final spin on this story, which is going to be very funny. And then this very same people who were like, Russia did it actually, that came in and said, Russia did it actually, are going to fucking turn around and now make that argument like they didn't actually say Russia did it to itself by blowing it up on their own. No vote was taken at Tuesday's meeting, although Russia circulated a draft resolution calling on the United Nations to establish a commission composed of impartial and internationally respected, experienced jurists to conduct a comprehensive, transparent, impartial international investigation. That makes sense. Most of the non-permanent council members from Africa, Latin America, and Middle East call for the existing investigations rather than a new UN inquiry to continue. But as has frequently happened during the Ukraine-related council meetings over the past year, lines were drawn by 5 permanent members, with Russia and China on one side and United States, Britain, and France on the other. Wait. So you're telling me that America said we don't want an independent UN investigation into who blew up the pipelines? What? Huh. That's so odd. Why would they not want that to... I'm sure there's no reason. Why does it matter? Fuck their pipeline? Bro, are you insane? Bro, people are so brain broken. It's like, it's not just fucking their pipeline, you idiot. You're fucking Germany. Like, if you don't think that Russia is has any, like, human beings inside of it, well, okay, well, EU's getting gas from the fucking pipeline, and you're like, nah, fuck that. Don't give a shit. If this is the kind of attitude that you want to represent, like, good luck. Hi, Mom. Okay, well, you know. I say hi to your mom every night when she opens the door to let me in to give her a good dicking down, and you're out here fucking saying hi, Mom, back. Crazy. John Kelly, political counsel of the American UN mission, told the council that rather than entertain completely false allegations, we wish Russia would apply urgency to myriad reports of violations of international human rights law. Dude, that's insane that they're like, dude, don't even, what? You want an investigation? Fuck that. Actually, fuck that. Let's not do that. How about we investigate the human rights violations, which they are investigating, for the record. They literally just went, nah, dude. No. Fuck that, dude. Nah, no shot. Like, okay, well, that's already happening. And it is valid to do this, by the way. I am an impartial person in this regard. It is totally valid to investigate the international human rights law violations that Russia is causing. Okay? That's valid. My mom appreciates it. Our family will send fruit basket. But like, how the fuck do you use that in this regard? To deflect away, like the top of the hour ad break is here. You know what I mean? And if you want to deflect away better than the United States of America is trying to deflect away from a UN impartial third-party investigation being conducted into who blew the fucking Russian pipelines up, well, then all you need to do is subscribe, which you could do for $5 or for free with a Twitch Prime. That's right. Because at the top of the hour, there's a streamer and ad break. If you no longer want to see those ads, all you need to do is subscribe for $5 or for free. Germany took barely any gas at the time the pipeline was destroyed, so it was kind of stupid to act like Germany is suffering greatly under its consequences. Yeah, where is Germany making up that additional gas from, though? And also, remember, Germany's taking barely any gas at the time because, as Seymour Hersh also correctly pointed out, Germany had a relatively warmer fall. But that doesn't change the reality that in the winter, they're still going to need a lot more. And it's not about like whether you can get gas. You can always get gas from somewhere. What matters is how much that gas is going to cost. Keisha, thank you for the 5 get the subs, which cost $5 a pop, which allows five people to no longer see the ads at the top of the hour. Germany's permanently losing manufacturing jobs to China. BASF outlines further cost cutting and 2,600 job losses as it downsizes in Germany. Here's a 3-minute ad break now, by the way. NS1 was closed for maintenance by Russia, and NS2 was never in use. Again, I'm mentioning that gas coming in from Russia in the fall is very different than gas potentially coming in from Russia in the winter. And someone living in Germany, this has definitely been felt by everyone. My rent increased $200 a month just for gas costs. Neki Stranak, thank you for the 5 get the subs. As a German, I don't even care much about the heating costs. What skyrocketed was the electricity prices for me this year because those prices are tied to the gas price. Anyway.
Should not be believed on any fact that he or she puts forward.
That it was taken off of the CIA and put under military in order to prevent.
Our military is also subject to rigorous oversight.
That's my question. That's my question.
The answer is yes.
So that's Ned.
Did you follow up by being like, was military under subject to rigorous oversight when they did Abu Ghraib? How much rigorous oversight was applied during the My Lai massacre? Just start using like other Seymour Hersh, who I can't stop calling Seymour Butts in my head. Fuck you, chatters, for that one. God damn it.
Price being questioned by Sam Husseini in the State Department press briefing room. Cy Hirsch, I'm wondering if you can respond. You wrote an interesting follow-up today on Substack called Crap on the Wall. Now, it's not your words, actually. You're actually quoting the White House when they, the most bizarre effort came from Defense Department of Donald Rumsfeld, you write. 2 decades ago, Secretary Rumsfeld, Vice President Richard Cheney discarded the rule of law and common decency in their efforts to stomp out Muslim terrorism. I was writing for The New Yorker. You're talking about the Abu Ghraib scandal. The White House responded to an article I published about the CIA's secret operations, inside Iran, by calling it another example of Hirsch throwing crap. That was the word used by an Assistant Secretary of Defense on a wall to see what sticks. Under Barack Obama, you say a senior national security advisor responded Seymour Hirsch is a known fabricator, adding the magazine, The New Yorker, could publish that response to any future Hirsch story without further checking. Your response?
Interesting that not much has changed, except for time has continued. That has validated Hirsch's reporting, as time will continue to validate Hirsch's reporting now. That's interesting. It's so odd that, like, anyone that doesn't abide by the State Department propaganda will always get slurred, smeared, and pushed aside and owned into oblivion. And yet motherfuckers that wrote articles talking about the definite weapons of mass destruction that existed in Iraq are elevated to the highest states of media. How does that keep working like that? It's so strange, because the guys that are telling the truth, even if it goes against the overwhelming narrative, just get fucking bullied relentlessly. It's so odd.
To all of
they just say you're a conspiracy theorist, even if everything that you say gets validated ultimately. It's so strange, man. It's just like, how the fuck does that happen all the fucking time? It's crazy.
Well, my long-gone mother, who came here as an immigrant and loved America more than anybody, particularly about Ned Price's stuff, she would have said he should have washed out his mouth with soap, which is what she actually did to me a few times. So anyway, what can I say? It's, sometimes... I won't say truth. That's too. Sometimes different versions of a story cause problems. The reason I went into that sort of soliloquy about what's going to happen possibly in NATO and Europe about Biden's act of saying to the Western Europe and Germany, we rather keep our war going, and you can stay cold. Is I think it could cause some countries to say, we may be out of here. What do we need NATO for? And American support when in a crisis, they take away our ability to keep our people warm. It also could lead, I think the Green Party has done very well in Germany. The chancellor is from the Green Party. I think it's going to lead to widespread conservative movement politically. And the one thing we did after World War II that was fantastic was we rebuilt Europe into a modern democratic plurality society, plural society. I think it could lead to it won't go as far as it did in Italy. We could lead to some conservative victories and subsequent legislations, because Europe's always had no natural resources. They've always had to rely on others. And
anyway, look, I'm done. Okay. The chancellor is not from the Green Party. Yeah. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. We got nothing out of this video. This is part of the reason why I didn't want to cover the Seymour Hirsch story, because, like, while I agree with him, I don't think there's anything new there. Like, just look at significantly more important facts, like Joe Biden, which he also